Good morning, everybody. Shefa Bracha V'Atzlacha. The shiur is going to be, of course, to the Elui Neshama of all those who were murdered, brutally slaughtered, and to the well-being, to the Refuah Shlema of all the wounded, and of course to the return home safely of all the kidnapped, all those who were kidnapped, and to the success of our soldiers. And also coming back home, Bezrat Hashem, bimera biyameinu. Parashat Vayera. Parashat Vayera, as we always say, the Torah is speaking to us through the parashat Shavua and telling us what's going on. Vayera elav Hashem b'elulei mamre v'yoshet et ha'oel kechom hayom v'yisa ina vayar v'nei shlosha anashim nitzavim alav. Avraham Avinu is in a state after 3 days of his bris milah, which he did in at the age of 99, 100 or something, and is in pain, and God reveals himself to him. And here we have to understand something very interesting. Look what's written in Vayera elav. God reveals himself to Avraham Avinu, and he's raising his eyes, and he sees, and there are 3 people standing there, and he sees, and he runs to them. Why is it written 3 times? Vayera, God is showing himself to Avraham Avinu, and then Vayar, he's seeing. Seeing what? It's written again, seeing 3 people, and then seeing again, seeing Vayar. What did he see? Why 3 times? So the general idea is very simple. What's happening here is we're talking about God revealing himself to Avraham Avinu, and Avraham Avinu is in pain. He is in a, let's say, in a bad situation. He is not happy. He is sad. Why is he sad? By the way, not because of the Brit Milah. He is sad because God took out the sun, Yotzei Chama min Artika, and it was so hot that no visitors were coming, and Avraham Avinu, he looking all the time for doing a mitzvah, to do achnasat orchim, to get visitors. This is one of the main things that he was doing. And there is nobody. Now, instead of laying in his bed, recovering from the Brit Milah, he is sitting in the tent, in the entrance of the tent, in this heat, and he's looking for visitors. So now when God comes to him, he is not happy. He is sad. And as we said, not because of the Brit Milah, but because there are no guests, and he cannot do a mitzvah, so he is sad. So God realizes it, and he brings in those 3 angels. And when he sees those 3 angels, he is becoming happy. And when he is happy, now Vayar, now the 3rd Vayar, and now he sees the Shekhinah, now he sees God. So to see God, to speak with God, to the Shekhinah, prophecy and all those things, you can only get when you are happy. When you're in a sad situation, you cannot see God, you cannot see the Shekhinah, you cannot get prophecy. The point is, how is it that Avraham Avinu, God is revealing himself to him, the Shekhinah is coming to him, he sees her and he says, 1 minute, don't go, wait, I have to do this mitzvah, I have to treat those 3 people. But this is, for mine, it's a chutzpah. Well, you live in God to treat 3 guests? How do you do this? And the other thing is that the Rambam explains when a prophet gets a prophecy, he's all shocked. Like he is not connected to this, he's up there, he's somewhere else, he's not here. So how can it be? Imagine to yourself, somebody's got a meeting that is going to, let's say, give him parnasa for the whole year. And this meeting is with this guy, that his future is in the hands of this guy. Very important meeting. He is up there in the 40th floor, and suddenly he sees somebody in the street asking for tzedakah. And he tells this guy, wait, I'm going down to give him tzedakah. Wait for me, I'm going to come back. First of all, what do you think? This is a normal behavior? And secondly, how can he even see from the 40th floor somebody on the street? They tell a story about the Rav, what's his name? Sorry, I don't remember the name was now. But anyway, he was a guy, he was doing a lot of hospitality and inviting all the people that didn't have what to eat on his table. It was a very long table, 30, 40 people sitting there. He was sitting in the end of the table learning. And one day, one of the rabbis sees that he's closing the Gemara, and he goes to the other side of the table, and he is feeding a old guy that couldn't eat. He had no teeth. And later on, he's asking, how could you see it? You were learning Torah, learning Gemara, and suddenly you see there's somebody on the other side of the table, this very long table. How could you see him even? He said, when there is chesed to do, when it is good to do, when a fellow man needs your help, you see, you feel it, and you see, and you look at it. And that's a very important thing. So now, let's go back to the story with Avraham Avinu. Now, what's happening now with Avraham Avinu is that God reveals himself to him. And one guy told me, it's like, imagine to yourself, a mother didn't see her son for a few years. And then he comes to her, and he says, 1 minute, wait a minute, and he takes a bunch of flour and he gives her. What do you think? Is this leaving the mother or doing something that is no good? Of course, that's the best thing that can be. He's giving his mother flowers, a present, after he didn't see her for so many years. And this is exactly what's happening here. Well, what is the Shekhinah? This is abstract. This is, the Shekhinah doesn't need your chesed. He doesn't need that you're going to do something for it. But those three people, they need. And to do something good with the Shekhinah doesn't leave you. She is with you. Because this is a bunch of flowers to show the Shekhinah, here, you see, look what I'm doing for you. I'm doing it for God. I'm doing it for the Shekhinah. Achnasat orchim. Nevertheless, from this learned, Chazal learned, or sages learned that Gdola Achnasat orchim yoter mikabbalat pnei Shekhinah, that to have guests is more important than receiving the Shekhinah, which is, as we say, hard to understand. But now, when we combine those all things together and we understand that the Shekhinah doesn't leave, it doesn't tell the Shekhinah, wait for me here. The Shekhinah is with you. And by the way, the proof for this is, when we go on, the whole story, when the angels tell Avraham Avinu to Sarah that she's going to have a son, Yitzchak, and we're going on. 1 minute. And then is the story with Sodom. And only later on, when the whole story is finished, Vayelech Hashem kasher kilal daber, then God goes. In other words, the whole story is with God with him. The Shekhinah is with him. To show us that the Shekhinah didn't leave. On the contrary, when he did this good thing to have the guests and feed them, the Shekhinah is with him. Because that is the whole idea of the Shekhinah. This is the combination of, to understand that now we are in a very bad situation. And one of the things that we see, Baruch Hashem, happening is Gmilut Chasadim. Everybody is helping, which is very, very important. That this is one of the things that we have to take in our mind. This is what we need. But let's go back and talk a little about Sodom. This is a very interesting thing. This whole argument, discussion about Sodom. Sodom was a corrupt place. Sinners. In the lowest level that can be, and God decides to destroy them. He knows what he's doing. And he is telling Avraham Avinu, and Avraham Avinu and him have a discussion of this corrupted places. Avraham Avinu wants to save it. So they're talking about 50 tzaddikim, 40, 30, 20, they killed the cat to 10. This all discussion is happening, and we look at it and we don't understand what's happening. And by the way, look at something very interesting. First of all, it says, God, I cannot do this if I don't tell Avraham Avinu, because he saved them. As well as Parsha, there was this war, and he saved Sodom from those other kings. And nevertheless, Vayomer Hashem zakat Sodom Amoraki Rabbi. It says the screaming from Sodom, this unbelievable, corrupt place, the terrible things that are happening there. Erdana, I'm going down to see if this is really what's happening. What does it mean? What, God has to go down? But here is a very interesting point that connects us to something else. Vayigash Avraham Vayomer. And Amos says, what, you're going to kill a tzaddik with a rasha? Maybe there are 50 tzaddikim in town. Maybe there are 50 tzaddikim in town. And look what God is telling him. Vayomer Hashem im emtza, if I'll find. In other words, okay, now there are no tzaddikim in Sodom. But even if I'll find when I'm coming down tzaddikim, I'm going to save Sodom. In other words, God is giving a chance till the last minute for the people of Sodom to do tshuva. So he says, even if there are 50 tzaddikim, 40, 30, 20, 10, but which kind of tzaddikim we're talking about? And this is a very interesting point. Are we talking about tzaddikim like Avraham Avinu? And are we talking about tzaddikim that were there the whole time? Look how Avraham Avinu is changing his request. He is not asking for God if there are 50. He says, if you'll find, you understand and realize that God knows that there are no tzaddikim right now, but maybe when the Shekhinah comes down, the Holy Spirit comes down, that maybe this atmosphere of holiness will have influence on some of the people of Sodom, and they will do tshuva. The same as we saw in the Mabul, when the flood, it wasn't happening only after 120 years, and also then it was raining like good rain, waiting for the people here to do tshuva. And only when they didn't do tshuva, the flood started. And here the same. God is giving the chance to the last minute to do tshuva. So you have to learn. This is a big thing to learn from here. That it doesn't matter where you are, what situation you are, you can always do tshuva. Nevertheless, on what tzaddik do we talk about? It says tzaddik betoch ha'ir. Not a tzaddik that if in Sodom there are 50 tzaddikim, but tzaddikim that sit in Sodom. What do I mean in Sodom? That have an influence on the others. In other words, a tzaddik that sits in his yeshiva and sits and learns and is doing nothing, this is not the tzaddik who is going to save the town. But a tzaddik that is involved with the people, that he helps them, and he has an influence of them, this is a tzaddik that can save the city. And there's a logic in this also, because if he's got an influence, he will maybe make them do tshuva. But if he's got nothing to do with the people, so they are doomed, and he is doomed also, because he shut himself in this yeshiva or in this tower, and he doesn't have any connection with the others. So a tzaddik in Sodom means a tzaddik in Sodom, involved with the people. And this means also another thing. We are not talking about the tzaddik Avraham Avinu. We're talking about tzaddik as this is relative to the situation of Sodom. It's like the Rav Zalman Soroskin gives a sample. One day he was traveling in a train, and in front of him was sitting a group of people like from the Reform movement, that they were talking about what they have done in Yom Kippur, that they were going in Yom Kippur and were drinking and eating. But some of the group says, yeah, but Eli, he wasn't there. He is a tzaddik. On Yom Kippur, he is fasting. He's not coming with us. He didn't come with us. In other words, this tzaddik that they talk about, usually on Shabbos, on other Yom Tovim, he comes with them and he goes with them to the clubs and he drinks with them and he mechalel everything. But on Yom Kippur, he's a tzaddik. He goes on his way. He had to go to yeshiva to check for a shidduch for somebody, and he's asking about this guy. Somebody comes to him and whispers in his ear, you know, this guy that learns in the yeshiva here, he reads a lot of papers. The Rav Zalman Soroskin is thinking to himself, look at it. Look, the Rasha of the yeshiva, what is his problem? He reads too many papers. He's not learning enough. He's the Rasha of the yeshiva. Put this Rasha in the train with the other group. He's going to be tzaddik yesod olam, the greatest tzaddik of the world. From the others, I take the tzaddik from the train and put him in the yeshiva, Rasha Merusha, an evil guy. In other words, it's what we're talking here about. It's unbelievable. If there is somebody that is better than the others, he is already, relatively, he is a tzaddik. He can have influence on the people, and you know, you do one step, another step, and this is what we have to understand and realize. Everything starts with one step. So what God wants, show me the way. Even if you are down there, deep in the tumah, if there is a certain thing that can influence you to elevate yourself, to go one step higher, and then it will lead to another step. And this is the tzaddik that we're talking about. Not tzaddik yesod olam, not the tzaddik that does all the things. Relatively, he is a tzaddik. If you compare him to the other people of Sodom, he is a tzaddik. But he is not at the level of Avraham Avinu. But also, he has to be connected to the people and have an influence on them. Because otherwise, it doesn't matter. It's nothing. And to understand the power of the tzaddikim, for example, Bar Kokhba, the town Beitar, there is a seizure on by Andrianus. For 3.5 years the seizure is going on, and he cannot win it. Eventually, after 3.5 years, he decides, I'm going to leave the place. Comes to him a Kuti, one of the goyim there, and he says, I've got a way that you can win the war. I know the real power. The real power is this tzaddik that is there in town. He is called Rabbi Eliezer Amodai. And as long as he learns Torah and he prays to God, you cannot win this war. But let me wait for a few days. And he goes in and he comes to Rabbi Eliezer Amodai. And Rabbi Eliezer Amodai is sitting and mourning and learning and asking God not to be on the judgment day, not to judge the people. And he whispers something in his ears. Of course, Rabbi Eliezer doesn't hear it, but the other people see that this guy, this Kuti, is saying something to Rabbi Eliezer Modai, and they run to Bar Kokhba and they tell him, you know, this Kuti, this guy, he came to, and he's this Rabbi Eliezer Modai is the uncle of Bar Kokhba. He came to your uncle Rabbi Eliezer Modai, and he whispered something. We think that they are plotting something against you, like to finish the war, to have an agreement with Andrianus or whatever. So they interrogate this Kuti, and he says, even if you kill me, I won't tell you what I told Rabbi Eliezer Amodai. So Bar Kokhba goes to Rabbi Eliezer Amodai. He's still in mourning and praying and learning, and he's asking, what did this Kuti tell you? What did he whisper in your ears? So Rabbi Eliezer Amodai says, I don't know. I was busy when learning. And Bar Kokhba doesn't believe him, and he's very angry, so he hits him and he kills him. And you know what happened then? Andrianus went in and conquered Beitar. And we all know the story of Beitar. Millions of people were being killed, slaughters, etc. So, let's imagine to ourselves that in Sodom were a few tzaddikim that would have saved Sodom. Would anybody even understand it or realize it? Do we realize the power of tzaddikim in our generation? Do we realize that if one of those tzaddikim goes, we have less power in front of God? Do we realize that we have to change our ways? Do we realize that each one of us has got, even if you've got a little, you have to try to influence others to do the good in the eyes of God. 1 mitzvah, 2 mitzvah, doesn't matter what. We see today unbelievable things. The soldiers, they're asking for tefillin, for tzitzis. We see doing Kabbalat Shabbat together, religious and non-religious, lefties and righties, whatever. What a beautiful sight. But we have to pray. And we have to understand that this sight that we see, we want it to go on. And it has to come from inside. It cannot just be something from the outside. Okay, now it's this bad situation, so we are together. But what's going to be the next thing? This is what we have to pray for. We have to pray that this thing is going to go on. That this unity that we see, of course there are still those, and I'm not senile, I'm not, let's say, naive. I know that there are a lot of people going to go back to the old ways. But if we save one soul, if we save one soul, if we have an influence of 2, 3 people, 1 person, to do the good in the eyes of God. They asked Rabbi in the Gemara, what can we do in order to be saved from the time of the Mashiach, Chevlei Mashiach? He told them, Gmilut Chasadim veTorah. Do good to each other and Torah. Says the Chafetz Chaim, this is not a sgula, this is a recept. This is a recept how we can be saved from the horrors of the times of the Mashiach. And one doesn't go without the other. In other words, you need Torah and Gmilut Chasadim. Torah by itself is not helping. Gmilut Chasadim by itself is also not helping. We need both. So we see now an influence that we see the Haredim coming also to the Rami. So we see this combination of Torah and Gmilut Chasadim. This is what is going to save us. We have to pray for it and to understand and realize that this is the only way to win this war. To be together and connect these good deeds that we do now with the Torah, and pray that it's going to go on, and understand and realize that even if we are not the greatest tzaddikim in the world, But we are in town. We are inside. We got an influence on our family, on our friends. Do it. Do it. This is those small things that can save us. And I want to finish with a beautiful story. That things are not as they look from the outside. We need the inside. And with this, I think here the Rav Sela, his father was learning engineering, and he was a stagiaire. I know I think the English stagiaire in one of the big companies in America. And one day he had to have a meeting. They were sending him to have a meeting with a CEO of a very big company to show him the new project that they are building. So at the time he was waiting there, to come this big limousine, black limousine with a driver and with this CEO sitting there, and invites him in. They go to the site, he shows him the site, and then they take him to the office of this company. And then he realized that the CEO realizes that, how do you get back to your office? You've got no transportation. He says, I'll find a way. He says, no. You take my limousine. My driver is going to take you. And on the way, you can use the bar in the car. We have good cigars there. You can smoke them. You can do whatever. It's okay. Use it all. He's happy. Go into this limousine, big black limousine, sitting there, taking a cigar in his mouth. And he's opening the bar that's got in the limousine. He's getting a glass of champagne. So he's sitting in the limousine. One hand he's got a cigar. The other one he's got champagne. And they're driving. There is a traffic light. They stop, and near stops a car, a Trante, an old car, and in this car is one of the guys that learned with him in the university. So he looks at him, and he sees him sitting, this guy, in a limousine with a cigar and a champagne in his hand. Said, "Wow, you did it! You did it big time! How did you do it?" He didn't have the time to answer him because the traffic light changed. It was green, and they drove away. This is like, you know, you look at things, and you think, wow, it's grittling, it's like, but you don't know what is the real thing, what is inside. And this is one of the big lessons to understand. We don't look at the outside, we look at the inside. We don't want only the outside, we want the inside. Otherwise, all this behavior that we have now, this beautiful thing that we see, from the other side we have other things. But we have to understand, what is important is the inside. To show off and do things because now it's bad times, it's good. But it's not good enough. It has to come from inside and be a part of us, not something that when the traffic light is going to change, we're going to drive and we're going to find out the real us, a real we. No, we want to go on. We want to go on doing good, not only looking from the outside brilliant and shiny, but also from the inside. And this inside has to take us to the Geula Shlema Bimera B'Yameinu. Amen. All the best.